What's this all about?
CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan got in the cage with former UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the Manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
This is Vera Papasova.
Oh, this is going to be funny.
She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these dates because they were so insecure, because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
CNN, what is this? This woman dated only far-right men for a year. They were so insecure. The rest of it's cut off right here. All I heard is the Manosphere, so that definitely got my attention. Oh, shit, it's here in the description. The Manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers. Oh, man, here we go. Some entertainment. Good coffee.
She said the men she dated got all their news and information from the so-called Manosphere.
They did not listen to anything else. They're only listening to independent media, and they're only listening to men talking to men.
The Manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers.
There's no such thing as an independent female.
Most women have zero concept of like money.
Females don't have independent thought.
This is hilarious, bro. This is hilarious. They're mad that men don't listen to CNN. Yo, this shit is funny.
It's a space where UFC fighters are among those who reign supreme.
They love the UFC guys. They love the MMA guys because those guys do what they can. They're modern gladiators. They're badass.
Badass like Jake Shields, a former UFC star turned podcaster.
All right. Now I'm starting to feel nervous. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
Like all great MMA pros.
What? My dude just took an inhaler.
I've never hit anyone in my life.
I'm not punching.
Nothing wrong with it, but why would you get that shot to make him, just look so scared? And
You back, hit me.
It's CNN.
Yeah, I see it right here. KO, KO, KO.
This is CNN. I miss being full-time pro, like in terms of...
Yeah, of course I miss it. To go from professional athlete, which is the highest of highs, to retirement.
CNN brought their best cage fighter to this interview.
Amazing career where you're famous and spotlights to all of a sudden you're a nobody.
Sure.
Like other podcasters in the Manosphere, Jake regularly hosts controversial guests.
I'm not saying I agree with his ideology, but I should hear what he has to say.
He's hosted the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Today I have a very, very special guest, Dr. David Duke. I know you're controversial, but I had no idea how controversial.
And Thomas Russo, the leader of the white supremacist group Patriot Front.
Let's go.
This is crazy. But the reason why I think this is kind of wild, man, because when you hear Manosphere, I think a lot of people, they don't know where to place all the different sectors, right? And I even don't like speaking about the Manosphere or the red pill from any real serious perspective. And here's why. Most people have the wrong idea and just group everyone in the same bucket, right? So for me, for example, you think that I probably would agree with almost everybody you see here in this video, when the truth is, it depends. Depends on the topic. It depends. But to them, a male platform that's either having controversial conversations or they're touching on topics that they may disagree with, they will highlight as some sort of patriarchal problem, white supremacy, so on and so forth, right? People don't understand that there was a time when the red pill just meant truth, just meant the truth. But now things have shifted. Part of the reason why I don't really use the term much here on the Coffee Pod at all. Let's keep listening.
Go where we disagree a little bit.
Yes, sure.
Let's hit race, because you're a white-only group?
So the organization only allows people of American ethnicity, and all Americans, I believe, come from Europe, so they're white.
Yeah, no, I understand and talk to these guys, but I've also not brought anyone hateful. If I do, I'm going to be really, really on top of them.
But so you saying that you haven't brought someone hateful on, right? People say, well, you brought on
Yeah.
the Grand Wizard of the KKK, you brought on Patriot Front.
Yeah.
They're hateful.
No, I think those are excellent questions, but if people go and watch the actual interviews, I think they would be like, oh, this guy's not near.
I don't know who any of those dudes are, man. If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think I care enough to go check it out. I don't know. Might go see. I don't know what's going on over there.
Hateful if I expect it.
But Vera says hate isn't what the men she dated were really looking for.
One of these guys brought me to a political meeting.
And did they talk about politics?
Barely. They talked about, it was a bunch of men complaining about girlfriends and wives, regurgitating Andrew Tate type of advice about how to train your girlfriend, how to train your wife to be submissive. And so this group was supposed to be a political group, but they're talking about relationship problems. And the fact that that's what most of the time was spent on, you don't need to be a neo-Nazi. You need therapy.
The appeal.
Who is this chick, bro? So she went on dates with this dudes and was mad that they were talking about their relationship. Life, what did you want them to talk about? Politics on the date because maybe they identified with a certain party or group of people. I don't know. It sounds kind of crazy to me. This is insane.
Of Jake's podcast speaks to a need among young men in this country that Vera says can't be ignored.
You have to incentivize someone to want to be better. You can't just say, let's make men better. The thing about these guys is their biggest support system is online, but that also is very isolating, and isolation is what breeds hatred.
Groups like Patriot Front offer community, but community based on racism and hate.
People have to really think about, do you have the capacity to talk to people that you don't agree with? Because that one nice conversation you might have might change someone's day enough to not have to seek out help in an online support group, which is actually a bunch of white supremacists using political beliefs as an excuse for how they feel.
Donny O'Sullivan is here with us now. Donny, I'm so glad you've done this special. There's so much intrigue around this issue of the Manosphere. And in fact, Trump is going to the UFC tonight. How big of a role does the sport play in the Manosphere?
Well, yeah. And look, we should point out at the start here, there's tons of guys who are fans, and some women as well, who are fans of the UFC.
Right.
I have many friends who are fans of the UFC. It certainly does not mean, that if you are a fan of the UFC, you are falling sort of down this rabbit hole of hate and white supremacy and everything else. But what we are seeing is that there is this sort of, there is this crossover. The UFC is playing a greater and bigger role really in American life. Joe Rogan, who's the world's biggest podcaster, is a UFC commentator. Dana White, who is the founder of the UFC, is a prominent Trump supporter and was recently appointed to the board of Meta by Mark Zuckerberg himself, another big MMA and UFC fan. And actually fighting tonight in Miami. Trump is going to the event. We're not sure if he'll be there for the earlier fights, but fighting tonight in Miami at the UFC event is a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell, who recently set up a podcast of his own, and on his debut episode.
It's almost done, guys. I want to say what I was coming to my mind towards the end of this video. So let's just keep listening to this.
But a few months ago, he said that Hitler was a quote unquote good guy or a great guy. Dana White, the head of the UFC, was quick to condemn that. But, you can just kind of see there where folks who might be coming into this sport for one reason are a fan of fighting, and then they're getting exposed to views like Bryce Mitchell's.
All right. Yeah, see, here's the thing. I actually did not know what direction this was going to go at all. I actually thought maybe they were going to just focus in on the dating relationship conversation that's had on multiple platforms, and it's very popular right now. But they didn't do that. They actually stuck to politics, of course. This is CNN. Why am I surprised? I should have seen it coming. Something about the way this was shot, something about the way this was done really comes off very inauthentic. CNN, people are never going to take you seriously as a platform, and you will continue to lose to real media. People will not take this seriously. The only people I can see taking this seriously are people who don't know how to use a computer. That's just true. To the rest of the world, they kind of viewed this as comedy. And I mean the people who you're talking about, who can look through and kind of see how you want to group in anybody who maybe, because he tried to say there, just because you like the UFC doesn't mean that you're a white supremacist. These people expect women to be this way. And they talk about, like, they brought up Andrew Tate and, different people, all people who I actually may disagree with when it comes to certain things and agree with in other aspects of relationships and intersexual dynamics. I think the biggest problem with just this whole video is you're talking about macho podcasts. What does that mean? You mean men who embrace their masculinity. And the problem with the way they're approaching this is not every man who embraces his masculinity, who may agree when it comes to dynamics from a traditional perspective within a relationship, would necessarily agree with everybody who they've showcased here in this video. And you sort of are grouping all these people in together when there's a lot more nuance in that, man. This was hilarious as far as I'm concerned. It was a comedy. What do you guys think? I think it's really funny how at one point it almost seemed like when it came to these conversations, things were dying out. But I think the current political climate has sort of just resurrected this whole topic, and things are now changing. Interesting. Talk soon, guys. Curious to know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Till next time, I'm out.